What if I told you that one of the most overlooked heroes in the Dodgers' recent history wasn't a flashy slugger, a dominant ace, or even a rising young star, but a backup catcher, a man who often sat quietly behind the plate while others soaked in the spotlight, yet who delivered in some of the franchise's most pivotal moments? Austin Barnes, the 35-year-old catcher who spent over a decade with the Los Angeles Dodgers, might not be the first name you think of when you hear Dodgers legend, but when you start peeling back the layers of his story, when you truly understand what he meant to this team in the biggest moments, you begin to realize that his legacy isn't just respectable, it's essential. His was a career defined not by volume, but by impact. Barnes' 11-year journey with the Dodgers reads like a masterclass in perseverance, humility, and quiet excellence. He was never the everyday headline, rarely the face on the billboard, but when the lights were at their brightest, when October arrived and the stakes were sky high, Austin Barnes delivered. In 2017, when Yasmani Grandal struggled at the worst possible time, it was Barnes who answered the call in the World Series, stepping into the pressure cooker of baseball's biggest stage and performing like he belonged there all along. And in 2020, during that unforgettable pandemic-shortened season, when the Dodgers finally ended their 32-year championship drought, it was Barnes who found himself once again at the heart of the action. He wasn't just catching games. He was catching history. From laying down a perfect sacrifice bunt that drove in a run to launching a home run in Game 3 of the World Series, to catching the final out of the entire series, Barnes didn't just witness Dodgers history, he helped write it. And yet, despite all of that, when people talk about the modern era of Dodgers greatness, Barnes is rarely the first name mentioned. He was the man behind the scenes, the backup catcher often forgotten by casual fans, yet deeply respected by teammates, coaches, and true baseball aficionados. As Tyler Kepner of the New York Times once wrote, "Pity the backup catcher, so often the forgotten man in late October." But Austin Barnes made sure he wouldn't be forgotten. He became the kind of player every championship team needs: the steady hand, the calming voice, the guy who knows his role and plays it to perfection. Think about this: how many players in Major League Baseball spend over a decade with one team? How many catchers are trusted to guide pitching staffs year after year, through slumps and injuries, through changing rosters and rising expectations? Barnes wasn't just a presence in the clubhouse, he was a cornerstone of its culture. His pitchers trusted him. His teammates leaned on him. And even as Will Smith emerged as the Dodgers' starting catcher and one of the best offensive backstops in the league, Barnes didn't sulk or fade into irrelevance. He adapted. He embraced the mentorship role. He worked tirelessly behind the scenes, helping develop young pitchers, managing bullpens, and being ready whenever his number was called. That's the thing about Barnes, he was always ready. He understood that greatness doesn't always come in the form of gaudy stats or flashy highlights. Sometimes, it comes in the form of consistency, of preparation, of being a glue guy who holds things together when the pressure mounts. And if you ask anyone inside the Dodgers organization, players, coaches, front office personnel, they'll all tell you the same thing: Austin Barnes mattered. In a sport that often celebrates the individual, where MVPs and Cy Youngs dominate the headlines, Barnes represented something different. Something more team-oriented. He was the heartbeat behind the plate, the guy who caught bullpen sessions in the dead of summer heat, the one who dissected hitters' tendencies in pre-game meetings, who strategized with pitchers inning by inning, pitch by pitch. He was never too loud, never too flashy, but always there, always valuable. When you look at his stat line, nothing jumps off the page. He was a career 219 hitter with limited power, a light offensive profile by any standard, but that doesn't tell the story of his career. Stats don't measure leadership. They don't capture clutch moments. They can't quantify the trust a pitcher feels when he's throwing to a guy who knows exactly what to call in a full count situation with runners on. And make no mistake, pitchers loved throwing to Austin Barnes. That's why, even when his bat went cold, he stayed on the roster. That's why Dave Roberts kept turning to him when it mattered most. And now, after 11 seasons in Dodger Blue, Barnes' time with the team has come to a close. It's a bittersweet moment, because while every player's career eventually comes to an end, some departures just hit differently. Barnes isn't just another player moving on, he's a symbol of an era. He's a reminder that championship teams aren't built solely on stars, but on the unsung heroes who do the work, who make the sacrifices, who show up day after day, year after year. And even though the spotlight may not have followed him the way it did with others, Barnes leaves the Dodgers with something more meaningful than fame. He leaves with respect. Respect from his teammates. Respect from his coaches. Respect from fans who paid attention. And if you're a young catcher coming up in the Dodgers system, you better believe you've been told to watch how Austin Barnes did things. That's the legacy he leaves behind, a blueprint for what it means to be a pro, to be reliable, to be trusted. His name might not go up in lights, but his fingerprints are all over the Dodgers' recent success. Every time the team took the field in October and performed like season champions, you can bet Barnes had a role in that. Whether it was calming a young pitcher in a high-pressure situation, executing a key bunt, or just being the voice of experience in the clubhouse, his contributions mattered. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of career we should celebrate more often. Because in a world that often chases the flashiest headlines, there's something deeply admirable about the guy who shows up, does the work, and helps his team win no matter how thankless the role. Austin Barnes might not end up in Cooperstown, but he'll always have a place in Dodgers lore. He'll always be the guy who stepped up when it mattered most. The guy who caught the final out of a championship 32 years in the making. The guy who quietly shaped a winning culture and left behind a standard of professionalism that others will strive to match. So here's to Austin Barnes, backup catcher, unheralded hero, and forever a Dodger.